Hello, for today's video I found this and I disagree with most of it, so I thought I'd share my thoughts. Let's hit it.
When it comes to your wardrobe, there's really nothing worse than getting up in the morning, opening up your closet to be met with a bunch of clothes, and then having that sinking feeling of, I've got nothing to wear.
She does give a caveat of when it comes to your clothes, but to me a worse feeling is not having enough or barely even being able to afford clothing at all. This video reads very tone-deaf, but for the most part we're on the assumption that most people own clothing, so let's just roll with that.
And as someone who's been both a shopaholic and a minimalist, I've experienced this feeling on both sides of the equation.
I think that speaks to a larger problem than being a minimalist or a shopaholic. What I'm trying to say is that she's indecisive.
When there's too much in your closet, it becomes really difficult to know what you have, and so you just get overwhelmed and end up choosing the same thing over and over again.
For moments like this, if you feel like you have too much clothes in your closet and it makes you feel overwhelmed, try decluttering some of your clothing. I did a while ago, and now everything I own is something I would want to actually wear. Well, not everything. I have like my quote, nice clothes, unquote.
And when you have too little, it can easily start to feel boring and tired really quick. At least it did for me.
I think this is why minimalism is so hard for most people. It's because we love to have an abundance of things. However, I suppose it really depends on the person, cause some people get by owning very few things. But I'm not one of those people.
But whatever your wardrobe looks like, I just think that there's some things that don't belong in there. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about the 10 items of clothing you just don't need in your closet.
I thought this video would be more about things you should avoid buying, and not necessarily things you should gut from your wardrobe. The title is a little misleading.
These are pieces I found I either always regret buying, and if you're planning to declutter your closet, I think these are some of the pieces that you can get rid of to help you get that process started. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
For those of you who don't know me, welcome. My name's Christina.
Hello there.
I talk all about intentional living, intentional spending, and how to get the most out of what you've already got. The first item of clothing you do not need in your wardrobe is anything that is too small right now.
I hate to break it to you, but most people try to buy clothes that actually fit. But I'm jumping the gun. I'll let her explain herself.
Oopsie, rookie mistake. I forgot to turn my mic on, so the sound is going to be a little bit different.
If you know the recording messed up, why wouldn't you just re-record your audio? Your video is mostly a voiceover anyways. No one would have noticed.
And I'm not saying that you need to get rid of these things because bodies change, weight fluctuates. That's a reality that I think we need to embrace.
So now you're saying you don't need to get rid of these things. But earlier you said, these are things you should consider not buying and getting rid of. Which is it?
Especially in our wardrobes. But what I am suggesting here is that you can remove these pieces from your wardrobe and put them into storage for another time.
So we went from these are things you'll regret buying to get rid of these things to put it in storage.
Because in my experience, when I had everything in my wardrobe sort of in my face, that's when I found it became very difficult to get dressed. It was very easy to get overwhelmed, and then I would just end up reaching for the same thing over and over again.
Okay, but what does that have to do with buying stuff that is too small?
And when I did end up reaching for the clothes that were too small, they never really ended up becoming part of the outfit that I wore or an active piece in my wardrobe because it was too small.
I wonder what too small would even look like on her. No offense. Also, this point is kind of moot. You don't normally buy something that intentionally wouldn't fit you, right?
And there are also things that I will regret buying in the first place because I don't want to negotiate with myself or with a piece of clothing in order to fit into it.
Sure, but why would you buy something that doesn't fit you in the first place?
So best that these pieces don't end up in your wardrobe at all.
She just repeats herself, so let's just go to the next point.
Number 2 are shoes that give you blisters.
First of all, shoes aren't clothes. I'm being pedantic, but this point is a total cop-out. Second, most shoes, unless you're wearing Crocs, slippers or sneakers, are going to be uncomfortable. Third, this is basically the same as her first point, just with shoes. Next.
Like, come on. The third item that doesn't belong in your wardrobe and that I think you will always regret buying is anything itchy.
I didn't realize these points would be vague adjectives. I thought she would say these actual pieces of clothing are things you shouldn't buy. For example, a wool coat.
This goes for sweaters, blazers, jackets. If it feels itchy against your skin, you're just not gonna wear it.
That's not completely true. I brought up a wool coat earlier. It's itchy, sure, but it's a great piece to have for winter. It's always stylish, so you can keep it for many years. Next point.
Number 4 is synthetic clothing. Now, I do think that things like polyester, rayon, nylon do have a place in your wardrobe in certain areas.
Why does she keep contradicting herself? Girl, don't admit you're wrong in the first 5 seconds of your argument.
I am starting to lean away from wearing majority synthetic blend clothing because I'm finding I just overheat in them.
That's great for you, but a majority of people don't have the option to just buy expensive workout clothes. Or one shirt that costs the entire budget for food that month. A lot of people are just barely scraping by every day. For some people, cheap synthetic clothing is their only option. Also, if properly taken care of, synthetic fabrics could be just as good as luxury fabrics. I've had cheap clothes that I bought years ago still in my wardrobe because I actually take care of the clothes I buy.
Number 5 is uncomfortable underwear.
I guess lingerie is technically still clothing, but we're going a little too off script here for my liking.
Okay, so for me, look, I am a member of the Itty Bitty Titty Committee. I don't even really need to wear a bra on most days.
So I think from just this you can see my problem with most of the points made in this video. In that, she's saying you don't need this, when in fact all of the advice she's giving is for mainly herself.
But I'm talking about things like underwire bras.
So I cut most of this out, but what she's saying is, don't wear uncomfortable underwired bras and lingerie that's too tight. This comes down to personal preference if we're being honest. It's hard to argue stuff like this because everyone has a differing opinion on this subject. Honestly, just wear whatever makes you comfortable.
The 6th item that doesn't belong in your wardrobe and that you will regret buying is anything that makes you feel guilty for buying it in the first place.
These listings are all a little out of pocket and vague as hell. Don't buy stuff that's too small or itchy, or don't buy something that makes you feel guilty after buying it. How do you know if you feel guilty after buying it if you haven't bought it yet? She also forgets the fact that you can return the clothing you buy if it makes you feel guilty, or doesn't fit from being too small, or is an itchy fabric that you can't wear for some reason.
Number 7 is fantasy self items that you still haven't worn.
Okay, finally. I think this is actually the first good point she makes in the video. The first being at number 7.
It's essentially the idealized version of yourself that you want to be.
Who I am is who I want to be.
And who you want others to perceive you as being.
Wait, what about dressing for success or mantras like that? Sometimes you buy stuff to motivate yourself. Or does she mean don't fantasize about being a rich influencer, only dress in the poor quality Shein clothes? You loser? I guess I don't agree with this point at all. I retract what I said earlier, LMAO.
Number 8 are fussy clothes. So they're items of clothing that require extra cost, time, and effort to both wear and take care of. When we do buy things, it's not necessarily just the cost of the item that we pay up front. There are often other costs associated with our purchases when it comes to things like maintenance and aftercare. So that is something to consider if you are either decluttering your wardrobe or considering buying something new for it.
Are you seriously saying that you have to consider washing your clothes after buying them? I guess not everyone has easy access to a washing machine, and I suppose not everyone washes their clothes after buying them. But this point is still absurd regardless.
Number 9 are too many basics.
Okay, real talk. This might be the only point of hers I agree with.
I really do believe that in most wardrobes, there are a few key basics in terms of shape, cut, silhouette, function, and purpose that I think everybody can benefit from owning. But I feel like once you have your basics nailed down, you don't really need too many more.
Point made. Got it. Next. I skipped over it, but she goes on a long diatribe of how she likes to break her clothes down into a pyramid scheme or something. I don't know, but let's just get to the last point.
Which brings me into number 10, and that is any capsule wardrobe must-have that is not you.
My bad, I skipped over the whole capsule wardrobe thing. Basically, a capsule wardrobe is a set number of clothes that can mix and match with one another to create many outfits. I think this is just a phrase the clothing-obsessed influencers use to mean their wardrobe. I swear people are just inventing new terms to mean things we already had terms for.
I know I did say that I do think there are a few fundamental wardrobe staples that everybody could benefit from having in their wardrobe. So although I do believe that these capsule wardrobe checklists and basics that every girl needs is a good place to start, I think it's really important to look at those recommendations with a critical eye. I really believe a good wardrobe is one that is functional, that reflects who you are and what you do in your everyday.
Okay, she's a little all over the place with this point, but I disagree with it, regardless. She's basically saying don't buy clothes that you think you need to complete your wardrobe, or capsule or whatever. But to me, if there's something I want, I'm probably going to buy it. I think this is different for every person. Either way, buy whatever you want. Life is too short and painful to limit yourself in what you should or shouldn't buy.
So those are 10 items that I feel do not belong in your wardrobe and pieces that I think you may ultimately regret buying.
I don't agree mostly. Maybe just don't buy too many basics.
I think when we get rid of these items or even prevent ourselves from buying them in the first place, it just helps us create more space in our wardrobes, and I think can really help affirm what it is you like and what you don't.
All right, cool. That's it. The end. Bye.